Hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining us during the Lytham Partners Spring 2023 Investor Conference. My name is Ben Shamsian, Vice President of Lytham Partners. During this fireside chat, we welcome Reviva Pharmaceuticals, ticker RVPH on the NASDAQ, and their CEO, Dr. Lax Bhat. We will dive into questions in a moment, but one final item, I want to remind everyone that Dr. Bhat is available for one-on-one meetings. If you have not already signed up, please send me an email at shamsian@lythampartners.com. That's SHAMSIAN @lythampartners.com, or visit lythampartners.com/virtual and click the one-on-one meeting request button. With that said, let's begin. So Dr. Bhat, for those who are new to the story and to the company, can you please provide a high-level overview and maybe a bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. Ben, thank you for having me here. I really appreciate this opportunity. My name is Lax Bhat. I'm a founder and CEO of Reviva Pharmaceuticals. Reviva is a phase 3 stage pharmaceutical company focused on developing novel therapies for CNS, particularly at this stage focused on neuropsychiatric conditions, diseases, and neuroinflammatory diseases such as pulmonary indications, PAH, and then pulmonary arterial hypertension, pulmonary fibrosis, and skin disease, psoriasis. So these are our current focus. We do have currently 2 molecules in development. One is brilaroxazine. This is the most advanced molecule currently in the phase 3 studies for schizophrenia. We are anticipating top-line data in about 3 months' time. The drug is also currently in development for additional neuropsychiatric conditions, such as bipolar disorder, major depressive disorder, and ADHD as well. So another molecule in development, RP1208, this is serotonin. It is a triple reuptake inhibitor, currently in the preclinical development for depression and then obesity. Both the molecules currently in development are discovered in-house and developed in-house. Our company has granted patents globally, filed, granted in US, Europe, Japan, and additional 15 countries across the world. So this is, as I mentioned, the program is in phase 3 study for a major indication, schizophrenia. We are anticipating top-line data in about 3 months. This is really an exciting time for Reviva.
Okay, great. Big picture, mental health has become an important issue in recent years as referring physicians, insurance companies, employers, and even the government agencies are putting more prominence on it. Can you talk a bit about what you're seeing and what kind of gets you excited about the area?
Sure. Mental illness is the most debilitating mental disease. Globally, if you look at the current data statistics, schizophrenia alone, global prevalence is around 24 million people suffer from schizophrenia. US close to 4 million. In Europe, around 7 million people suffer from schizophrenia. And other closely related neuropsychiatric conditions, collectively we call them as mental illness. Depression, bipolar, the total number of patients suffer from each in these indications are much larger number globally, as well as in the developed countries like in US and in Europe. There are treatments available, especially if you look at schizophrenia over the last 40 years, the 13 new drugs approved to market. But still, the treatment has a current standard of care, have a lot of unmet needs, not only with respect to efficacy to treat these symptoms, and then also the currently available treatments are known to cause a variety of side effects at varying degrees. So both the efficacy, suboptimal efficacy to treat major symptom domains associated with these mental conditions, and then side effects associated with current standard of care, together lead to treatment compliance. So in other words, this treatment compliance further complicates things such as pharmacoeconomics, health economics, and related issues. So the overall, we do see, despite having multiple drugs approved currently in the market, there is a significant unmet need in the treatment of mental illness. So any new drug that can have even an incremental improvement over with respect to efficacy and safety over currently available standard of care, that could significantly benefit people suffering from mental illness. At Reviva, our focus is to develop a new treatment for mental illness. We do have 2 drugs in development, and then lead drug, as I mentioned, has shown good efficacy and safety profile in the phase 2. We feel very good about the progress has been made so far. We hope our drug, brilaroxazine, currently in the phase 3 development, make real difference in these patients' life.
That's great. So let's continue with your lead drug, brilaroxazine. It can be used for the treatment of not just schizophrenia, but also depression, bipolar disorder, and ADHD. I think that's interesting as many patients suffer from 2 or more of these disorders. Can you help us understand why the multi-use is important from a prescriber's point of view?
Sure. First of all, the schizophrenia and other major mental illnesses, as I mentioned, bipolar, the major depressive disorder, and then ADHD, besides schizophrenia, where we are currently focused on. These are major 4 mental illnesses. But if you look at carefully the disease itself, they are not single disease. Rather, mental illnesses often have comorbidities, or in other words, we call multiple symptom domains. By and large, there is a significant overlap of other closely related conditions. For example, schizophrenia has there are characteristics of major symptoms in schizophrenia, and then also there are other symptoms associated with schizophrenia to a great extent overlaps with other conditions such as bipolar, major depressive disorder, and ADHD. That's the reason why if a drug has broad spectrum efficacy or pharmacological profile, it can target right receptors. They are also approved for beyond schizophrenia. They are out of 13 drugs currently approved for, new drugs approved for schizophrenia in the last 40 years. Only a handful of drugs, at least 4 to 5 drugs are approved, are widely used for beyond schizophrenia to treat bipolar disorder and major depressive disorders as well. So this is related to overlapping symptoms. So there are already, as I mentioned, a few drugs, handful of drugs approved for. There is a regulatory precedence of using antipsychotic beyond schizophrenia to treat closely related mental illnesses. So our drug, compared to this widely used standard of care, we believe has broader receptor pharmacology profile that we believe has very well, that profile has been very well translated in the clinical studies, the data generated to date in our prior to starting phase 3 study in about 300 patients. So based on the available data, both non-clinical, clinical, as well as a current clinical literature, we believe our drug can be used beyond schizophrenia to other major conditions such as bipolar, major depressive disorder, and ADHD. So that's the scientific rationale for developing our drug, multiple neuropsychiatric conditions.
Got it. You alluded to the studies. What are some of the bigger takeaways, the important takeaways of the phase 2 study that you had completed?
Yeah, the major unmet need in the treatment of schizophrenia, especially, and as I mentioned before, schizophrenia is not a single disease. At least 5 major conditions are associated with schizophrenia. You call them conditions or symptom domains. So to namely, positive symptom, negative symptoms, mood symptoms. Mood means those who are not familiar with mood symptom. Mood is primarily depression and general anxiety conditions. And schizophrenia patients also have significant cognitive impairment or cognitive dysfunction condition. Up lately, in the last 5 to 10 years of clinical research, we have seen increasing importance has been given to addressing neuroinflammation. So it is what is found in not only in the schizophrenia patients, in depression patients, bipolar patients. Neuroinflammation is a kind of a common thread we have seen all the mental illness patients, as well as neurological conditions such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's as well. So addressing these major psychiatric conditions, positive, negative, mood, and cognitive, besides neuroinflammation, can be an ideal treatment approach for schizophrenia. So in the phase 1 study, in the multiple ascending dose study, we have conducted the study in stable schizophrenia patients. Those who are not familiar with this space, stable schizophrenia is a condition you can compare. The patients are stable in the sense they can do routine work. They are not harmful to themselves and then also others, but they require treatment, maybe lifelong. So that kind of conditions, long-term treatment. After having the data with the efficacy in these patients, and then as well, especially for psychosis and cognitive scales, then we started the second large study in acute schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder patient population. So acute schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder patient population, that kind of pretty much covers schizophrenia, acute schizophrenia, and then schizoaffective component to a great extent, covers some of the symptoms found in beyond schizophrenia, such as bipolar and major depressive disorders as well. Having seen good efficacy, robust data, we believe the superior data, not only with respect to efficacy and then side effect profile and compliance, record low dropout rate of around 12 to 14% in 1 month treatment. So we believe this is a really differentiated product to treat major symptoms associated with schizophrenia. There is a significant unmet need because approved antipsychotics, I'm talking about widely used antipsychotics, are suboptimal to treat equally or to a great extent all major symptoms. By and large, approved antipsychotics address positive symptoms, but have significant unmet need in treating in the treatment of comorbidities or other major symptom domains, chronic conditions such as negative symptoms, mood, and cognitive. We have typically in the schizophrenia studies, we evaluate this efficacy for this condition in the secondary endpoints. So if a drug shows efficacy on the total PANSS scale, total PANSS is a scale used for evaluating efficacy in the overall outcome. But if a drug overall total PANSS score, to my knowledge, to a great extent reflective of reduction in positive symptoms to a great extent. Of course, other symptoms may reduce at varying degrees, but having evaluated those improvement on the secondary scale, that's very critical to a great extent to evaluate drugs efficacy or a treatment effect in the long run, or overall, whether patients are how fast they are recovering from the symptom. All these things to evaluate secondary endpoints are very critical. All antipsychotics currently approved and then available in the market, did not show efficacy for negative symptoms and others, other symptoms on the secondary scale. Our drug, on the other hand, showed good efficacy on the total PANSS score. That's all the drug approved to date in the market show at varying degrees. But besides that, our drug has shown good efficacy, statistically significant improvement on the negative symptoms. That's very important for patients to recover in the long-term predictor. And then also the social inhibition, there's a functional improvement in this patient population besides cognitive improvement. So all these things, we believe this is a really differentiated profile compared to other standard of care currently in the market.
Okay, so you're now in the phase 3 stage. The latest trial is 400 patient study, and you talked about the 50% of the patients have been enrolled. Can you talk a bit about this study, the timing of the results, and what you hope to accomplish?
Sure. So in the phase 3 study, as we couple of times in the past updated, we are currently running 2 trials. One is a pivotal efficacy study that is 4 weeks treatment in 402 patients. The second one is a safety study, open label study. That's again around 400 patients. In other words, we call them 100 patients completers for 1 year. So it can be total number of patients enrolled in this second study can be 300 or 400 or even slightly more. But the goal is to get 100 patients completed the treatment for 1 year. So we are anticipating the top line data for the pivotal efficacy study, 4-week study in 400 patients in about 3 months' time, around mid of this year. As we announced, the trial is progressing very well. We are currently running the trials in 41 sites in US, Europe, and then in Asia. So trial, as I mentioned, both the trials are progressing very well. And especially in the long-term safety study, few patients already completed over 40 weeks. So we feel very good about the progress has been made in the pivotal study as well as in the long-term safety study. So we anticipate giving the top line data, as I mentioned, for the pivotal double-blind study in about 3 months. And the long-term safety study that is required for NDA application for approval purpose, that expected to complete, that's a 1-year treatment sometime next year in the Q3. So that's our progress in both the studies. So yeah, so in the next couple of months, we will have the data, next about 3 months for the pivotal study.
Got it. So in the July, August time, I guess.
Yes, correct.
Okay. In December, you announced positive safety data for brexanolone. Why is this data so important, and what do you and the medical community have learned from it?
That's Ben, you raised a very important question. Often when you may hear from other companies, when companies talk about mainly focus on efficacy. This is our drug target, and then this is what we are looking for efficacy. Often we don't hear the safety of a drug, because safety of a drug is extremely important. Of course, in all drugs, safety is important, especially a drug taken in many patients lifelong. Safety is extremely important. If the patients are not able to tolerate the safety for lifelong or longer term treatment, they're not going to take medication. When patients are not going to take medication as they're supposed to take, then it causes a compliance issue, and then ultimately patients will end up in hospital in acute care. That is a significant burden to patients, their families, and it costs a lot of money, as well as it's the quality of life reduces, both patients and family members. In the last, early this week, we had a KOL webinar. In that, we presented the data. There was a paper, research report published this year that talks about, provided the data, how serious is the drug-drug interaction in schizophrenia patients. Based on that report, unfortunately, we don't have a systematic report published in the younger patient population. In the older adult patient population, the report is on our website, the information. The data indicated, around 76 to 85% of patients, schizophrenia patients, they take 5 medications every day. Around 36 to 60% of the patients, schizophrenia patients, elderly patients, they take more than 10 medications. So around 35% patients take more than 15 medications. As we know so far, if a patient takes more than 1 medication, the chances of getting side effect increases. So with this data, it is very clear that why the current standard of care, with the drug-drug interaction, if you look at our data we presented, our drug increase in the presence of another drug metabolized by CYP inhibitor. So CYP inhibitor is an enzyme. Around 50% of the drugs currently in the market are known to cause drug-drug interaction because they primarily undergo metabolism in the body through the CYP enzyme. That's what regulatory agencies would like to see that data before approval. So our data in the presence of CYP inhibitor, it increased in the body. It's only around 1.2%. On the other hand, other approved widely used antipsychotics, as we highlighted in our presentation, reported to increase anywhere 4 times to 34 times. In other words, if you convert that one into percentile, anywhere around a 60% to 500% increase in similar studies. So that speaks a lot about the safety of our drug. So if it approves to market after successful phase 3 study, we believe this could have a significant impact in the treatment, and then it provide a good safety besides efficacy in this patient population. So that's the significance of the data, what we announced. We feel very good about the data generated. We believe this is much superior compared to other approved drugs currently in the market, antipsychotics currently in the market.
Okay, let's move on to the NDA submissions that's forthcoming. What is the work you've done to get ready for the NDA submission, and what is left to do?
Yeah, of course, everybody focuses on the phase 3 study. There are a lot more goes, behind the phase 3 study, and other developments are needed for an NDA application. NDA means new drug application to be submitted for FDA for approval. The critical studies are clinical studies. So we call them collectively called ClinPharm studies, such as drug-drug interaction, or we call ADME studies, in the sense when a patient takes drug, how it metabolizes, how much it excretes from the body, all these things we need to evaluate and then submit to FDA. We have completed those studies successfully, and then we are going to present the data. Of course, we highlighted some of them in our last KOL meeting. We will be presenting the full scientific data in the upcoming conference. It's called Aspect 2023. It's a national, international conference in St. Louis. So this will be in the 3rd week of May. May 19th and 20th, we are going to present 2 papers. So These are all data generated with respect to ClinPharm, and then besides ClinPharm study, and then of course the phase 3 study ongoing. There are other things to regulatory compliance studies we need to complete, such as manufacturing, large-scale manufacturing and toxicology studies. Most of the studies have already been completed, and then currently we are in a process of large-scale manufacturing of our drug product for commercialization, for NDA submission, or we call them NDA enabling studies for manufacturing. All these things are, majority of them already been completed. We believe after the phase 3 study top line data in mid this year, in the coming months, we will be able to clearly, put a roadmap for the NDA submission and then beyond.
Okay, so sort of in a concise form, can you walk us through the timeline of now through FDA approval?
Sure.
What are the steps? What are the timing? Sort of help us out there.
Sure. As I mentioned, we completed beside phase 3 studies. Majority of the studies have already been completed. So after the top line data in about July or end of July, around that time, what we would like to do, we start engaging with regulatory agencies for the next step for NDA submission. So we have to do one more phase 3 study that we believe in about 16 months time we can complete. Altogether, our goal is to complete the clinical development. As I mentioned, the long-term safety study expected to complete based on our current progress sometime in Q3 next year. The second phase 3 study, we will be soon after the top line data, we'll start the study. That study we expect to complete by end of next year. So altogether, our goal is to submit the NDA early 2025. So in early 2026, by end of 2025 or early 2026, the drug should be in the market. We have patent exclusivity, commercial exclusivity till 2036. So this drug, we hope, when it comes to market, will have around 10 years commercial exclusivity.
Okay. And we've talked about schizophrenia quite a bit, but can you speak about the other indications and what can we expect from those indications?
Sure. We, as we announced in earlier our earnings release, we made the program ready to roll out for phase 2 proof of concept studies for other indications, PAH and then IPF. We have great data for skin disease psoriasis. It's a new formulation developed. We have already filed compositions of matter patent that it's in the preclinical level. And then based on the data available, this drug can go for additional neuropsychiatric conditions, bipolar, major depressive disorder, and ADHD. Good thing about it, this drug, a platform therapy, once a drug gets approval for one indication, going to additional indications, we don't have to go through all the process of clinical development, safety, and everything. Some of the data, we can use that one for additional indication that can speed up the development process. So once we have the top line data for the phase 3 study, we believe our market cap from where we are now, today's market cap is around $175 to $80 million market cap. We believe there will be a significant upside in market cap after the top line data. That would allow us to, raise additional capital at a higher market cap and fund the remaining clinical program. So that's our plan. And then this is a top line data is not very far, so we will make a clear plan to advance, prioritize our other clinical program after the top line data.
Okay. Well, Dr. Bhatt, Thank you very much for your time today. We greatly appreciate it. To anyone out there who has not already signed up for a one-on-one, again, please send me an email at shamsian@lythampartners.com. That's SHAMSIAN@lythampartners.com. Or again, visit lythampartners.com/virtual and click the one-on-one meeting request button. We all hope you have an enjoyable rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Really appreciate the support. Thank you.